This is the pattern. Copy the size you're interested in. You will find my pattern at my Patreon, Sew for Kids. The pattern pieces already have seam allowance in them, so you don't have to add anything. Make sure that you mark everything. And this is how you can choose your size. You can use a glove that you know fits, and you measure from the thumb. And then you have to reconsider that you want some extra room. If you don't have a glove, you can measure like this, and remember that the seam allowance are already included. I'm using fake fur, fake leather and cuff fabric. But you can use any other fabric you would like. The gloves are going to be lined with a thin kind of fleece fabric, so they will be a little bit warm also, but not too thick a fabric, so they will be flexible. If you're using fake fur, you need to keep in mind how the hair lies, and then you need also to check out that you get one right and one left piece. So if you do a fake fur, you need to lay out the pieces like I'm doing here. So I'm going for the fake fur on the back side and on the thumb. Make sure that you transfer all the notches also. Cut close to the bottom fabric so you don't cut the hair of the fake fur. Please write left and right on your pattern pieces also. This is the leather fabric, and this is the piece I'm going to use for that. If you're using a fabric that do not have any long hair, you can lay out the pattern pieces like this. This is the fabric I'm using for the lining, and it's not very thick, so I can lay out the pieces like this. Make sure that you know the difference from the right and wrong side. When you cut the cuff fabric, make sure that you get the stretch in the right way. I start with the thumb pieces and I lay them right sides together and I pin it. I match up my notches, and then I'm going to sew with a 1/2 centimeter seam allowance, and I'm just going to sew towards the notch. You need to cut in the seam allowance to make it more flexible, and on these outgoing corners I'm making small V-shaped pieces, so when I turn the right sides out they look nice like this. Now you can lay these pieces right sides together, and you can pin where you have your notches. Now I'm going to sew, but I'm only going to sew up towards the notch. Make sure that you sew on the side where you have your thumb, but you should not sew the thumb so it fastens in the seam. Fold the cuff fabric in half in the grain line and make notches. As you can see, I have sewn the lining fabric in the same way, so it should look like this, and I'm making sure that I have the thumb on the same sides. And now I lay the cuff fabric right sides together, and I match up the notch with the seam, and then I stretch the cuff so I can pin it on the side. So it's important that you have the stretch this way, as you see I have. And then you can sew with a straight stitch and a half of a centimeter seam allowance. Do it in the same way with the lining fabric. And then you can pin them right sides together like this, and you can sew on the other side. But you should leave an opening of about 5 centimeters on the top of the lining fabric. Make sure everything looks neat and tidy before you turn the right sides out. If everything looks good, you can turn the seam allowance inwards and sew with a straight stitch close to the edge. Turn the lining inwards by folding at the center of the cuff fabric, and then you should push the thumb inside of the thumb, and when you have everything lined up, you are finished.